Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. Sonya Shelton founded Executive Leadership Consulting in 2007 from her passion for partnering with leaders and high achievers to create a clear vision and build work environments where employees are fulfilled and completely committed to their organization's success. Sound familiar? She has captured her leadership tips and success stories in her #1 Amazon best-selling book, You're an Executive, but Are You a Leader? Having been an executive as well as an international speaker and consultant, Sonya knows how to tap into lesser-known hidden practices that drive true leadership. Her philosophy, her background, and experience add a strategic, pragmatic, and multidimensional approach to making strong leaders. Sonya serves on the Forbes Coaches Council and is a certified master corporate executive coach through the Association of Corporate Executive Coaches. Sonya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for our conversation today.
Same. So I start every episode with the same question, and that is, can you tell us your story?
Absolutely. So I grew up in New Mexico in a relatively small town, Santa Fe, with parents who were entrepreneurs. And what I didn't appreciate at the time, but came to appreciate later, was a lot of the conversations in the evening at the dinner table were their hardest leadership challenges, right? Things they couldn't talk about while they were in the office. And if you would have asked me back then, I would have said, I'm never going into business. I'm never going to have my own business. That's crazy, like watching them. And I didn't really realize how much I picked up from those conversations. And so I started my career in music journalism, quickly rose up into editor-in-chief, right? And then that was sort of my pattern as I went through different jobs and careers, went from journalism to marketing and advertising, from there to starting my own company in communications. And then I was solicited by the Walt Disney Company to come and lead their internal communications team globally. And it was so interesting, Lizzie, because I was there, Disney's known for having an amazing culture. And when I first started working there, that was the case. But then I was there when nobody in my position had experienced what I experienced. And actually, nobody in that position will experience it again. So we had Roy Disney, a member of the Disney family, lead a shareholder revolt against our CEO at the time, Michael Eisner, right? So I'm head of internal communications, basically in a company going through a divorce, right? And so I saw the best of the best in the culture, and then I saw the worst of the worst. And it really had me see the impact of culture on an organization, like the activities, the goals, what we were focused on as a company didn't change. But what was happening with this shareholder revolt did change the culture, and it made it a different place to work. And that impacted my view of the culture, but it also impacted me as a leader and how I showed up for my team. What I was going through then got passed down to them, right?
It rolls downhill.
Right. Exactly. And my team was amazing. They pushed back and said, this is not okay, right? And we had a real transparent conversation about it and said, we don't have to be subject to what's happening around us, and while I don't advise people create microcultures, that is what we did. And really decided to create a bubble around us to say that whatever's happening in this chaos, we're not going to do that, right? And we'll serve as the model of what can be, and hold to the culture that we know this company can have. But it really made me have a lot of empathy for leaders that are going through challenging times and how they show up. And they might not have a team that was as great as mine. They might leave, they might quiet quit, right? They might sabotage. There's all kinds of things they can do. And so So I realized, I really started getting into leadership and culture while I was at Disney. And then I realized that I can actually have a bigger impact if I'm not part of the system.
Mm,
So I started executive leadership consulting and um, really, I can see, I use the metaphor, a fish can't see its own water, right?
yeah.
Sometimes when you're in the culture, there are things that you can't
Yeah.
see that
So true.
somebody from the outside can see. And so I just saw that I could have a bigger impact from outside, plus impact many other companies. And that's how I ended up where I am today.
I love it. So there's so much I want to dig in on, but one of the things you talked about was microcultures. And this is something that's very familiar to me too, because, in any big company, you're going to have a bunch of different leadership styles. And unless you have a leader at the top that is very, very strong in their vernacular around culture and their feelings around this is the company we have, um, it's hard to let it permeate across all the teams. It just doesn't happen unless you have that top down philosophy. And so, like you, I created microcultures. I had a leader and she did it with as well and brought me in. And when we had those spaces, those were like the coveted teams. Those were the teams that everybody wanted to be a part of. We thought differently, we innovated, we created new best practices. I just I resonate with that so much. And I love that you did that for your team. So talk a little bit about people that don't have psychological safety and don't have good leaders. What are some things they can do to survive? And this is what you do is totally in line with what I do. And part of the reason I love having people like you on the show is to amplify this work. And we are not competitors. We are holding hands, singing from the same songbook. So would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way that I approached it was, how can I make a difference here?
Yeah.
Right. That's how I came into the job in the first place, because I had my own company when I interviewed with Disney, and I thought, well, I'm just gonna go build the relationships and get them as a client. I had no intention of taking the job.
Yeah.
But then when I saw the opportunity and what the communications was frankly like versus what the company was capable of, I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I could really make a difference here.
Yeah.
And I just kept that, right? And I just said, and there were times when I knew that I had an idea that was the right thing to do, and I got told no. And I developed this reputation of, Sonya doesn't hear no, she hears not right now, right? And
Mhm.
I wasn't annoying about it. I would just see like, okay,
Yeah.
I take that no, but I know this is the right thing. And then another opportunity would come, and I would say, oh, you know
Mhm.
what? What if we went back to, maybe now's the time? And eventually I would, if it was a good idea, eventually I
Yeah.
would get it through. And just really looking for those opportunities for how you can bring your gifts and your talents to the situation. And sometimes just that one little drop
Mm.
creates a ripple
Mhm.
that starts to expand and actually can make a difference, right?
So
So it's like,
I was just going to say, you hit on something that really resonates with me in that I'm constantly telling people that you don't have to be a leader to be a contributor of good culture. And what I hear you saying, and maybe I'm just reading into it because I feel this way, when you are an individual contributor or you don't have direct reports, it doesn't mean you can't change the world around you. You can absolutely do that. And for me as a seller, I had reps that I needed to work with, and I had to have them choose to want to work with me. So I had to create a fun, lucrative, a high energy environment where they all wanted to be because they had choices. They could go work with anybody else. But because of that, they wanted to stay and they wanted to continue to work with me. So is that kind of what you're getting at?
yeah, absolutely. I always go back to, again, metaphor, right? The idea that when you walk into a dark room with a candle, you can see it everywhere,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't matter how big the room is, that little candle can be seen from every part of that
Mhm.
room.
Oh,
You could
good.
go
I
into a
love that.
stadium, right? You could go into a big stadium and you'll still see the candle,
Mm,
right? So I kind of use that as my reminder that, can you be that light
yeah,
in even in the darkest rooms, right?
so good.
And people will see that, people will feel that.
Mm,
And it does make a difference. Like it doesn't always feel like you
yeah,
have power,
you
but
do.
just how you show up. Doesn't matter. Everybody's a leader as far as I'm concerned, has the
I love
opportunity to
that.
be a leader as soon as you walk in the room.
All right. So, what are some of the best character traits of the best leaders you've worked with?
I think they're all different in their style. I
Hmm.
think what I would say is they had a strong why they wanted to do what they were doing, um, and a strong vision about where they wanted to go, right? So how they delivered on that was different depending on their styles, and how they showed up was different. But I would say those are the common things. Like they had a really strong purpose, and then they knew where they wanted to go,
Yeah.
and they might not always have all the path mapped out, but
Mm.
but they were clear about where they wanted to go.
And what are some tips for leaders who maybe aren't as evolved, that know that they are maybe they're losing people, maybe they're not feeling that sense of purpose? What do you tell them to do first?
Find it, right? So why are you in this job as a leader? Why are you there?
Mm,
What motivates you? Um, why is your company there? What are they doing for their customers, clients, consumers?
yeah,
What's that purpose? And how do you want to further that?
yeah.
And just start there, right? And just like connect to why you're there,
Mm,
and then say, okay, you might not know where you want to go, but get the team involved,
hmm.
right? To say, okay, so this is why I think we're here, and this is why I'm excited about that.
Hmm.
What could we create together? Right?
Yeah, I
Where
love
can we
that.
take this? Right? Like what could our vision be? And I find that the visions that are created that way with the whole team involved, um, actually are the most powerful and more likely to happen because everybody's excited about it because they were part of making that idea come to life.
Yeah, I love that. I think when you do purpose-driven work, your work is always going to be more impactful, more heart-filled, more battery charging, and it feels less like work. It feels more good with your core. And I know from after leaving a long legacy at corporate where I couldn't always define my why, I had to look for it. But when I did, I always sold more. I always had better numbers. My teams were always happier. So I love that tip. That's so, so good. What tip would you give for someone who's maybe working in a super toxic culture and they know it? They not the people that are there and miserable. I'm saying the ones that are like, I just can't find my why. What do you say to them?
Yeah, I don't advocate anyone stay in a toxic situation,
Yeah.
right? And I think psychological safety is an interesting term that's come about that I completely support,
Yeah.
but I also think has, for some of my clients, say weaponized, right?
Mhm.
Where, as an excuse for not having conflict.
Attention, visionary leaders. Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success, helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together. Hmm,
Right, to
interesting.
say I'm not safe having this conversation. And
Yep.
that's not what psychological safety is
Nope.
about, right? It's
Nope.
about being able to say what needs to be said.
That's right.
Right. Right.
That's right. Yeah, it's having
And
the safe space to be able to provide that feedback. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And and to be completely honest, when I left Disney, it was I was in a toxic environment, right?
Mm,
And I didn't even realize how much until after I was gone. I was like, wow,
yeah.
I was a boiling frog. Right, right. I didn't even see all the things,
Yeah.
right? And so whenever somebody's in an environment like that, it's not worth your health, it's not worth your relationships.
So true.
And can you make a difference? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, sometimes not, right? And it's really understanding for yourself. If you can't find that why, if you
Mhm.
can't find that, this is why I'm here, and then it's not the place for you,
Yeah,
right? So
I agree with that advice. I think that's really good. Talk a little bit about your book. Who is it meant for, and what can they expect?
yeah, so I wrote You're an Executive, but Are You a Leader with that title specifically to be a bit provocative,
Yeah.
because what I saw was, people using their title as why people should follow them, right? And
Well, my title commands respect. You should
right,
respect me. Yeah, it doesn't work, but yeah.
right, exactly, exactly. So, and then I really thought of myself, like, um, what would I want to tell myself when I look back at who I was before? What kind of book would I want? And I really designed it around somebody who's busy.
Yeah.
There's 50 chapters, 50 tips, case study for every tip, and then the
Mm,
coaching questions I would ask you if
okay.
I was working with you. And I've had people like almost use it like a workbook,
Yeah.
and that have never worked with me,
Hmm.
and it's changed their career, right?
Love it.
And so it's really about, how do you connect with leading yourself first, and then creating one vision, like
Yeah.
a common vision, like we talked about, one voice. How do you communicate that vision? And then one direction. So how do you get everybody moving in the direction of that vision? And it's sort of broken up in those sections and you can dive in, to one particular issue that you're dealing with right now, or you can read it cover to cover. It's designed to do both.
It's great. Sounds awesome. I got to get my hands on it. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to support another culture crusader like you. Um, so what inspires you?
I'm inspired by visionaries.
Mm,
I love listening to people, um, working with people who have this idea of doing something that to them is important, right?
mm,
It might not even be something that I resonate with. I might not even agree,
yeah,
but I'm inspired by their desire to build something.
I love that. And what would you like your legacy to be?
I was talking about that ripple effect, and that's kind of what I would like my legacy to be. That to maybe I only impacted one person, but that in person impacted could have impacted thousands.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I see what I do, and to be able to have that continue on, right? So maybe a person that person inspired could
Mhm.
then create more ripples, and together that's how we change the world.
Love that. And who are the best kind of clients for you? Who do you like to work with?
I love to work with people who are passionate about what they do,
Mhm.
and maybe not always have the path to get there, right? They're excited about what they're doing and what they're building, but they're not necessarily have it all figured out, or they have it very, very clear about where they want to go, but other people aren't clear,
Mhm.
right? And so how do we, I really love working with organizations that see the opportunity. If we just all got together and collaborated on this,
Mhm.
we could really make this happen, but we're not getting everybody on the same page and
Yeah,
creating that alignment. That's the work I love to do.
that's great. And what's next for you?
What's next for me is bigger platforms, right? So I want to do more speaking on a bigger level, I think, and I just started a newsletter on LinkedIn called Red Thread Leadership, and just getting out there in a bigger way, I think, for me this year.
Good. Well, good luck for all of that. I've loved having you on the show. How do people find you?
So the best place is on our website, executiveleader.com. You can find lots of free articles on there. You can find free webinars that you can take directly on the website, as well as connections to social, and all the places to connect with me are there as well. It's one-stop shop.
Excellent. And where can people find your book?
Amazon is the best place, and there's a link to it on the website as well.
Excellent. Sonya, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. You know I am here for this. If you enjoyed this episode of Heartbeat for Hire, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. Thank you for listening. Go be good leaders and have a great day. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.